A shocking revelation, the discovery of a hidden marriage that no one saw coming. The air was thick with disbelief when the news broke. She was married. No one had suspected a thing. Friends, family, and even those closest to her had been completely in the dark. How could she have hidden something so significant? The revelation sent shockwaves through everyone who knew her, leaving them questioning everything they thought they understood about her life. For years, she had played the role of the independent woman, focused on her career, thriving in her social circle, and never once hinting at any secret romance. There had been no engagement announcements, no wedding photos, and certainly no whispers of a husband in her life. Yet there it was, undeniable proof. A marriage certificate, dated 2 years ago, filed away in a small-town registry office miles away from where she lived. It all started when an old acquaintance, curious about her seemingly perfect life, decided to do some casual online digging. What began as innocent curiosity quickly spiraled into a shocking discovery. A legal record surfaced, confirming that she had been legally married for years, something she had deliberately kept hidden. The acquaintance, unable to keep the revelation to themselves, shared it with mutual friends. Within hours, the information spread like wildfire. Her closest friends were in complete shock. How had she managed to keep such a massive secret? The thought of her leading a double life felt surreal. Some were hurt, wondering why she hadn't trusted them enough to share the truth. Others were suspicious. Was she hiding this marriage for a reason? Was she protecting someone? Or was she running from something? As speculation grew, so did the mystery surrounding her secret husband. Who was he? Why had she never mentioned him? Some began searching for clues in her past, old social media posts, past relationships, any sign that might hint at a hidden love story. But there was nothing. It was as if she had erased every trace of her connection to him. When she was finally confronted, her reaction only deepened the mystery. She didn't deny it. She simply stared for a moment, then sighed, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. "Yes, it's true," she admitted, her voice steady but distant. "I got married, and I had my reasons for keeping it a secret." Her response raised more questions than it answered. What were these reasons? Was it an arranged marriage she had no choice in? Was she protecting someone from danger? Or had she made a mistake and regretted it ever since? With every new question, the mystery surrounding her secret marriage only grew. The truth was out, but the real story behind it remained hidden, at least for now. The mysterious groom, who is he, and why was the marriage kept secret? As the revelation of her secret marriage sent shockwaves through her social circle, one question overshadowed all others. Who was the mysterious groom? No one had ever seen her with a man she seemed serious about. There were no signs of a romantic relationship, no whispered conversations about an engagement, and certainly no wedding pictures. Yet, the undeniable truth remained. She was married, and the identity of the man she had vowed her life to was a complete mystery. A man without a past? As people searched for answers, they found nothing. His name, once uncovered, led to dead ends. There were no social media profiles, no public records of his work or background, just a blank space where a history should have been. It was as if he had deliberately erased himself from the world, leaving behind only a name on a marriage certificate. Some whispered that he was a shadowy figure, someone who lived in the margins of society. Others suggested he might be a high-profile individual, someone who couldn't risk having their marriage become public knowledge. A politician? A businessman? A criminal? The possibilities were endless. A love story or a dangerous secret. Speculation grew about why she had kept the marriage a secret. Had she fallen in love with someone forbidden? Was she protecting him? Or was she protecting herself? Some suspected it was a whirlwind romance that had turned sour, and she had been trying to escape its consequences ever since. Her silence only fueled the mystery. When pressed for answers, she simply said, "It's complicated." But complicated didn't begin to explain why she had hidden something so important from everyone she knew. Hidden truths begin to surface. Determined to uncover the truth, some friends began investigating. A former colleague claimed to have seen her meeting a man in secret late at night, exchanging whispered words before disappearing into the darkness. An old friend recalled a fleeting moment years ago when she had hesitated before denying she was in a relationship. Small details, once dismissed, suddenly seemed significant. The more they dug, the more unsettling the mystery became. Why had she chosen secrecy over honesty? And who was this man she had given her life to in the shadows? As the truth inched closer to the surface, one thing became clear. This was no ordinary marriage. It was a bond forged in secrecy, held together by something deeper, darker, and far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. A web of lies. How she deceived her friends, family, and the world. The revelation of her secret marriage had left everyone stunned. But the shock quickly turned into something deeper, betrayal. For years she had lived among them, smiling, laughing, and sharing pieces of her life. Yet, beneath the surface, she had carefully woven a web of lies, concealing the truth from even those who thought they knew her best. A perfectly crafted illusion. She had always been known for her independence. To the outside world, she was the woman who had everything: intelligence, charm, and an unstoppable drive. She spoke openly about her dreams, her career, and her future, always giving the impression that marriage was the last thing on her mind. When asked about relationships, she would laugh it off, claiming she was too busy to settle down. But now everyone realized that these were not casual remarks. They were calculated deceptions, carefully placed to steer suspicion away from the truth. The lies. She told her closest friends recalled countless moments where she had deliberately misled them. The vacations she claimed to have taken alone. Was she really with him? The times she had mysteriously disappeared for days, saying she had work commitments. Was she secretly meeting her husband? The phone calls she took in hushed tones, the way she would change the subject when marriage was brought up. Were these all signs they had missed? Even her family, who believed they knew everything about her, felt betrayed. How had she managed to keep such a life-altering secret from them? Had she married against their wishes, or was she hiding something far more sinister? The fake life she built. It wasn't just the lies she told, it was the fake life she built around them. She had erased every trace of him, never mentioning his name, never slipping up even once. There were no pictures, no messages, nothing that could hint at the existence of the man she had vowed her life to. Had she lived in fear of being discovered? Or was she simply that good at deception? Why did she do it? The biggest question remained. Why? Was she ashamed of him? Was she protecting herself from something dangerous? Or was the marriage itself part of an even bigger lie? One thing was certain: her world of carefully crafted illusions was beginning to crumble. And as the truth unraveled, those closest to her had to wonder, if she could lie about something this big, what else had she been hiding? Forbidden love or sinister plan? Was this a love story or something much darker? As the truth about her secret marriage unraveled, people began questioning whether it was truly a love story or something far more sinister. Was she protecting a forbidden romance? Or had she been caught in a dangerous web of deceit, manipulation, or even crime? A love that defied the rules? Some whispered that it was a classic tale of forbidden love. Perhaps their families had opposed their union, forcing them to marry in secrecy. Maybe he came from a different world, one where their relationship was frowned upon, where tradition, status, or even personal safety demanded silence. Had they fought against all odds to be together? Had she sacrificed her relationships, her honesty, and her very identity to be with him? If so, why wasn't she defending their love now? A darker truth beneath the surface. But others saw something much darker. What if this wasn't a love story at all? Her sudden silence, her refusal to explain, and her carefully constructed lies suggested something more than just secrecy. They hinted at fear. Was she trapped in a marriage she couldn't escape? Was she protecting herself from someone powerful and dangerous? There were rumors that her husband wasn't just an ordinary man. Some claimed he had a hidden past, one that involved shady dealings, violence, or even criminal ties. Others suspected blackmail. Had she been forced into this marriage against her will? A marriage built on lies? The possibility that this wasn't a real love story at all haunted those who knew her. Had she been deceived into marriage, lured by a man who had his own hidden agenda? Perhaps he had used charm and manipulation to pull her in, only to reveal his true nature once she was legally bound to him. Or maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the victim at all. Was she hiding something too? What if the secret marriage wasn't just about him, but about her as well? Had she willingly entered a deal that she couldn't reveal? Did she have secrets of her own, things she was running from, things that could destroy her if exposed? As the mystery deepened, one thing became clear. This was no simple love story. It was either a forbidden romance that had gone terribly wrong, or a calculated plan that was darker than anyone could have imagined. And the truth? It was still lurking in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. Whispers of scandal, rumors start to spread, and the truth begins to unravel. The revelation of her secret marriage had sent shockwaves through everyone who knew her. But in its aftermath, something even more dangerous began to take shape: whispers of scandal. What had started as quiet speculation soon turned into a wildfire of rumors, each version of the story more twisted than the last. Theories and gossip spread, like wildfire. At first, the whispers were soft, cautious. People were simply asking why she had hidden something so important. But as days passed, curiosity turned into wild speculation. Had she married someone forbidden? Was she running from a dangerous past? Or worse, was she part of something far darker than anyone had imagined? Some claimed she had been caught in an illicit affair, one so scandalous that she had no choice but to marry in secret. Others insisted she had married for money or power, tying herself to a man who could offer her something she desperately needed. And then there were the darkest rumors, the ones that suggested she had been forced, threatened, or even blackmailed into the marriage. A past that didn't add up. As whispers turned into full-blown accusations, people began scrutinizing every detail of her past. Friends and colleagues pieced together strange moments, times when she had disappeared without explanation, phone calls she had taken in hushed voices, the way she had avoided conversations about love and marriage. Someone even claimed to have seen her with an unknown man months before the marriage was exposed. A secret meeting in a dimly lit cafe, a heated conversation, a look of fear in her eyes. Could this have been her husband? Or was it someone warning her about him? The pressure to reveal the truth. As the scandal grew, so did the pressure on her. People demanded answers. Some were angry, feeling betrayed that she had lied to them for so long. Others were simply curious, desperate to know what she was hiding. She could no longer escape the rumors. Every move she made was scrutinized. Every word she spoke twisted into something darker. The walls were closing in, and she knew that unless she revealed the truth soon, someone else would uncover it first, and they might not be so kind in telling her story. But was she ready to face the consequences of the truth? Or was there still one more secret she was desperately trying to keep hidden? Betrayal and heartbreak. How her secret affects those closest to her. The moment her secret marriage was exposed, the fallout was immediate. But beyond the shock and rumors, there was something even more painful: betrayal. The people who had loved and trusted her the most felt the weight of her deception, and the cracks in their relationships began to show. Friends who felt used her closest friends, the ones who had stood by her through every high and low, were left questioning everything. They had shared their secrets with her, trusted her with their deepest fears and dreams, yet she had kept something as life-changing as a marriage hidden from them. Some felt used, wondering if she had ever truly considered them real friends. Others felt insulted, as if she had decided they weren't worthy of knowing the truth. And then there were those who felt guilty. Had they missed the signs? Had she needed help and they had failed to see it? Family left in the dark. For her family, the pain was even deeper. A marriage was meant to be a moment of joy, something celebrated with loved ones. Yet she had stolen that moment from them. Her parents felt the sting of betrayal. Had she doubted their love? Had she thought they wouldn't support her? The questions cut deeper than the truth itself. Her siblings, once her greatest allies, struggled with a mix of anger and sadness. Had they been so distant that she had felt the need to hide something so huge? A lover, left in question. And then there was him, the mysterious husband at the center of it all. What was he feeling? Was he the reason she had kept the marriage a secret? Or had he been just as hidden from the world as she had? Had he been a willing partner in her deception, or had he begged her to tell the truth? Was he the cause of her heartbreak, or was he the one suffering alongside her? A fractured life. With every passing day, the weight of her secret took its toll. The people she loved began to distance themselves, unable to look at her the same way. The whispers turned into accusations, the stares into cold glares. She had thought she was protecting herself, or perhaps protecting them, but in the end, all she had done was break the very bonds that had once held her life together. Now, as she stood in the ruins of her own making, one question haunted her more than anything else. Was the secret worth losing everything? A dangerous connection. Is her husband hiding a dark past? As the dust settled from the shocking revelation of her secret marriage, a chilling question began to take shape. Who exactly was her husband? At first, people were too consumed by the betrayal to ask. But as the whispers grew louder, suspicions turned toward the mysterious man she had hidden from the world. What was she protecting him from? Or more importantly, what was she protecting herself from? A man with no past attempts to uncover information about him led to dead ends. No social media, no professional records, no known connections, almost as if he had been erased. The more people searched, the more unsettling it became. Who was this man she had married? Some believed he was a criminal, living under a false identity. Others suspected he was a fugitive, hiding from justice. But the most disturbing theory was the one no one wanted to say out loud. What if he was dangerous? A history. She never spoke. Of looking back, her friends began remembering strange moments. She would disappear for days, sometimes weeks, always with vague excuses. She had changed phone numbers multiple times, sometimes looking nervous when her phone rang. Had she been trying to escape something or someone? One friend even recalled a night when she had received a call and immediately left a party without explanation. She had looked scared, truly scared. The secret that could destroy everything. Was she hiding his past out of love or out of fear? Did she keep their marriage a secret to protect him or to protect herself from the truth? Some feared the worst. What if she had discovered something terrifying about him after they married? What if she had wanted to leave but couldn't? And what if, even now, she was trapped in something far darker than anyone had imagined? The truth is coming. As the rumors swirled, one thing became clear. This was more than just a hidden marriage. It was a dangerous connection, one that could bring devastating consequences. And whether she was ready or not, the truth was about to come out. The turning point, a dramatic event, forces the truth into the open. It was a regular Tuesday morning, and the office was bustling with its usual rhythm. Phones rang, keyboards clicked, and people moved about with a sense of urgency. Among the sea of employees was Sarah, a mid-level manager who had always been known for her dedication and punctuality. She had been working at the company for 5 years, diligently climbing the corporate ladder. But beneath her calm exterior, there was a secret that weighed heavily on her. A secret that, up until now, had been buried deep within her. Sarah had been having an affair with her boss, Richard. It had started innocently enough. An occasional drink after work, a few casual conversations about their personal lives. But as the months passed, their professional relationship blurred, and what began as a mutual attraction slowly spiraled into something more. They shared stolen moments in his office, covert meetings at hotels, and a bond that neither could fully explain. To the outside world, Richard was the successful CEO, and Sarah was just another ambitious employee. But in private, they were something more, something dangerous. The affair, however, had always been a precarious one. Both Richard and Sarah knew the risks involved, especially if their relationship was ever exposed. They had carefully guarded their secret, always vigilant, never allowing anything to slip. But, as with all secrets, the truth has a way of revealing itself, often when least expected. That morning, as Sarah sat in her cubicle, her phone buzzed with a text message from Richard. "Meet me in my office, now." It was unusual for him to ask for a private meeting at this hour. Sarah felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. She excused herself from her desk and made her way down the hallway. As she approached Richard's office, she saw a group of employees gathered outside, looking at each other with confusion and concern. Sarah's heart raced. Something was off. She stepped inside and was greeted by a scene that felt like a bad dream. Richard stood behind his desk, his face pale and tense. Two security guards flanked the door, their expressions unreadable. On the desk in front of Richard was a thick folder, one that Sarah instantly recognized. It contained all the documents, emails, and photos that could ruin her life. A few seconds of silence passed before Richard spoke, his voice cold and firm. "Sarah, you need to explain this." He slid the folder across the desk toward her. As her eyes scanned the contents, a sinking feeling gripped her chest. The truth had come to light, not because of a slip-up or careless mistake, but because someone had uncovered it deliberately. The situation had escalated far beyond what either of them had anticipated. Richard's decision to expose the affair, albeit indirectly, was a turning point in their lives. No longer could they pretend the truth didn't exist. No longer could they hide behind the walls of their professional roles. As the room filled with tense silence, Sarah felt the weight of her actions, the lies, the deception, the betrayal, come crashing down on her. The affair that she had so carefully concealed was now out in the open, and there was no turning back. In that moment, Sarah realized the truth was like a storm, one that couldn't be stopped once it had been unleashed. The dramatic event that had forced the truth into the open marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one that would be shaped by the consequences of her choices. And no matter how hard she tried to avoid it, the storm had arrived. Public outrage and consequences, the fallout from the shocking revelation. The news spread like wildfire. Within hours, the entire office knew about the affair between Sarah and Richard. Word had quickly traveled beyond the walls of the company, infiltrating the media, and soon the story was the top headline on every news outlet. The public's reaction was swift, and it was unforgiving. Social media erupted with furious posts, debates, and condemnations as people expressed their shock, outrage, and disillusionment. The affair, once hidden in the shadows, had now taken center stage in a public spectacle that no one could ignore. The consequences for Sarah were immediate and severe. She was called into a meeting with the board of directors later that afternoon, a grim silence hanging in the air as she walked into the room. Her reputation, carefully built over the years, had been shattered in an instant. The scandalous affair with Richard had not only damaged her personal life, but had also stained her professional credibility. Richard, on the other hand, had already submitted his resignation. The backlash against him was even more intense, fueled by the public's perception of a powerful man abusing his position of authority. His affair with Sarah had been seen as a violation of trust, not just with her, but with every employee and stakeholder of the company. As the CEO, he was held to a higher standard, and his fall from grace was swift and unforgiving. The board of directors had no choice but to part ways with him to salvage the company's reputation. His once prominent position was now nothing more than a distant memory, his legacy tarnished beyond repair. The public outrage was felt not just within the company, but across the entire industry. People began questioning the ethics and integrity of the corporate world, wondering how such things could happen under the nose of a respected organization. The trust that had taken years to build evaporated in a matter of days. Employees who had once admired Richard now found themselves grappling with feelings of betrayal and resentment. Many wondered how much of their own careers had been influenced by the power dynamics at play in the company, and whether they too had been manipulated in ways they had never considered before. Sarah faced her own set of harsh consequences. The board, in a unanimous decision, announced her termination. Her position had become untenable. The company's leaders were not willing to risk further damage to their public image. Sarah's reputation had been irreparably damaged, and the company could not afford to be associated with the scandal any longer. Her colleagues, once supportive and friendly, now avoided her. Whispers followed her wherever she went. The faces that had once smiled at her now turned away, unable or unwilling to look her in the eye. Her personal life also fell into disarray. Family members, friends, and acquaintances distanced themselves from her, some expressing their disappointment in harsh terms. The shame of her actions loomed over her like a dark cloud. Her relationship with Richard had ended in disgrace, and she found herself alone, isolated from those who had once been a part of her life. The fallout was immense, and Sarah realized that there was no way to escape the consequences of her choices. As the weeks passed, both Sarah and Richard became symbols of betrayal, not just in their personal lives, but in the eyes of the public. They were the focal points of conversations about power, trust, and ethics, with every misstep and every revelation being analyzed and dissected. Their lives, once filled with promise and ambition, had become cautionary tales for others to learn from. The shockwave of their actions reverberated far beyond the confines of their office and personal lives. The corporate world would never be the same again, and neither would they. The public outrage and the consequences they faced were a reminder that the truth, when exposed, could bring about consequences far greater than anyone ever anticipated. Final showdown. The truth is finally exposed, but at what cost? The storm had been brewing for weeks, but it was now reaching its climax. Sarah stood at the edge of a precipice, the weight of everything she had done crashing down on her. The public outrage had only intensified, the media now calling for answers, demands for accountability echoing through the press. The board of directors had been silent for days, but Sarah knew her time was running out. The walls were closing in, and there would be no way to stop what was coming. It had all started with that fateful meeting in Richard's office, the moment when the affair was exposed, the truth finally laid bare. But as the days wore on, the repercussions had snowballed in ways no one could have predicted. The scandal that had shattered her career was now tearing apart her life, and there was no escaping the consequences. The company was in crisis mode, shareholders were restless, and former colleagues were using the situation to further their own ambitions, eager to distance themselves from the wreckage. The final showdown was set to take place in the company's headquarters, a tense, high-stakes meeting with the board of directors. Sarah was summoned once more, but this time, the room felt different. She had no illusions left. The board's decision was all but made. She knew she would not walk out the same person who had walked in. As Sarah entered the boardroom, Richard was already there, seated at the far end of the table. His face, once full of confidence and authority, was now hollow, the weight of his own fall from grace evident in his weary eyes. He avoided looking at her, as if the very sight of her reminded him of the destruction their affair had caused. The air between them was thick with unspoken words, their history hanging like an oppressive cloud. The meeting began with a stern statement from the chairman, who laid out the company's position. The affair had breached ethical boundaries, had damaged the company's reputation beyond repair, and left shareholders and employees disillusioned. They had tried to salvage the situation, but it was clear now that they were at a breaking point. The company's image could no longer be preserved. The damage was done, and no amount of damage control could reverse what had already been exposed. "Sarah," the chairman said, his voice cold, "it's clear that your actions were a violation of our trust. Your behavior has not only betrayed the company, but also undermined the values we stand for. Given the circumstances, we have no choice but to terminate your position immediately, effective immediately." The words hit her like a slap in the face, but it wasn't the termination that shocked her the most. It was the realization that she had no one to turn to anymore, no safe haven, no excuse. Everything she had worked for, the promotions, the recognition, the friendships, had been reduced to ashes. The truth had come out, but it had come at a terrible price. Richard stood up then, his voice shaky, as if he too were finally accepting the inevitable. "I never meant for this to happen," he said, but it felt hollow. He had already resigned from his role as CEO, his departure a foregone conclusion. But there was no satisfaction in his words, no redemption, only the bitter taste of regret. "Neither did I," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible. She had thought she could control the situation, keep it hidden, but the truth had a way of coming out, and when it did, it left nothing untouched. As the meeting drew to a close, Sarah stood up, her legs unsteady. Her career, her relationship with Richard, her sense of self, all of it had been consumed in the flames of the truth. She walked out of the boardroom without looking back, the weight of everything lost too heavy to bear. The world outside the boardroom felt like a different place. The streets, once familiar and comforting, now seemed alien to her. People stared, their whispers trailing in her wake. She was a walking scandal now, a pariah in a world that thrived on judgment. But as the days passed, Sarah came to understand something crucial. The cost of truth was high, but so was the cost of silence. By finally exposing the truth, the veil had been lifted, and the consequences had become inescapable. Her career and reputation may never recover, but perhaps in time, the truth would set her free from the guilt and the lies that had held her captive for so long. In the end, the truth had come out. But at what cost? It had destroyed her career, her personal relationships, and her sense of identity. Yet, in its wake, there was the possibility of rebirth. The journey ahead would be long, but the path forward was now clear. Face the consequences, rebuild, and try to find a way to live with the truth, no matter the cost.